With us today, we have Karl Doss, who is the Director for Access to Legal Services. I had a great conversation with Karl last week. He is very, very passionate about pro bono, and he's really interested in having a marriage between the big state bar and the Young Lawyers Conference and what we as young lawyers can do for pro bono. We do have a pro bono conference that has not been as active as some of our other committees. And so Karl's here today to talk about what it is we can do and some ideas. So, Karl.
Great, thank you. Can everybody hear me? I'll move it up just a little bit. First of all, thank you for having me here this morning. It's great to be here. If I seem a little bit flustered, it has been a busy 12 hours for me. I have a son who is in the Hermitage Marching Band and between the football game last night, a parade this morning, and a competition this afternoon. I'm running around with him, so I managed to sneak away from the parade and get here. But the fact is, it is correct. Pro bono is a passion, and it's really one of the reasons why I'm here today is to reach out to you and let you know, first of all, about the situation when it comes to pro bono in Virginia, let you know what the state bar has in mind, and then talk with you briefly and get some feedback from you as to things that we can do together and how we can really engage the young and the new lawyers in pro bono. I mean, because I'll be honest with you, this is my 7th week on the job here, so I'm still getting the lay of the land as far as pro bono and access to justice issues in Virginia. The past 5 years, both the past 5 years, I've spent in D.C. working with nonprofits, and before that, I've done various jobs in terms of public defense, prosecution, guardian ad litem between Minnesota, New York, and Virginia. But I, acknowledge that, 5 years out of Virginia, I missed out on some things. And so I've talked with various stakeholders and leaders in the legal aid community. I've talked to leaders in law school. I've talked to small and especially bar association leaders. I've talked to basically anyone who would be willing to give me 5 minutes of their time, and as Kim said, I had a great conversation with them to figure out what things can be done to really stimulate pro bono in Virginia. Let me start with this. Pro bono is really in need of help. And I say that by virtue, again, of my conversations and also by virtue of the research that I've done. The Access to Legal Services Committee of the Virginia State Bar, which is the group that I'm the liaison for, and the body that I work with primarily, did a survey earlier this year in terms of where pro bono stands in Virginia and how many attorneys are participating. And I will let you know that that survey is, there's some flaws. Clearly, we missed out, or the survey at least, missed out on those attorneys who are doing ad hoc pro bono. Basically, the attorneys who, somebody comes to their office and say, hey, I don't have money to pay you, could you help me out? That's not captured. What is captured are the attorneys who are doing pro bono for legal aid offices, both the official and quote unofficial legal aid offices. And in terms of participation, Virginia has roughly 25,000 attorneys. That's a little bit more than that, who are active in terms of licensed and practicing here in the state. The state bar actually has almost double that number in terms of active members. But let's say 25,000 attorneys who are practicing in Virginia. Out of those, the number of hours that data that we've collected in terms of pro bono participation is 36,000. So it's roughly about 1.6 hours or so per attorney per capita here in Virginia. Rule 6.1, which is kind of the governing or guiding, model or at least rule when it comes to pro bono service, which encourages all attorneys to participate at some level in pro bono. It's not mandatory. Virginia is not a mandatory pro bono state. It says that every attorney should basically commit 2%, of their work time to pro bono activities. Well, 2%, and let's go with 40 hours a week, and whatever, just doing the math. In theory, Virginia lawyers should be performing 900,000 hours of pro bono. And as I said, the survey basically says we're at about 36,000. So we are well short of where we ought to be. The ABA did a report earlier this year asking, nationally, why aren't attorneys doing pro bono? And the results were pretty revealing. I mean, first of all, we don't have time. I just don't have the time to do pro bono. Another answer was, well, I just don't have the training to do, the pro bono that's needed. Another answer was, at my workplace, at my office, I've got billable hours and this expectation there, and my boss just isn't going to encourage, or allow me to participate in pro bono. Another answer was, well, I don't have the resources. It's like, it'd be great to have a law clerk or somebody like that to help me, do this pro bono. And so, really where the state bar is coming from, where the Access to Legal Services Committee is coming from, is we want to help eliminate, or at least mitigate, those excuses, those reasons. And they're all very valid. Don't get me, I'm not trying to in any way, come down on lawyers and why they're not doing pro bono. What I want to do is basically make it easier for everyone to do something. And part of that involves, really coming to a clear understanding what pro bono is, what it isn't, as well as recognizing that there are different types of pro bono. One can do pro bono without actually taking on a case. You can certainly, it would be great to have folks, basically sit intake with one of the legal aid offices and just talk to some of the clients and help screen the cases. That's powerful. The fact of the matter is, if every attorney in Virginia could just do 2 hours of pro bono a month, we would be very close, very, very close to what the aspirational goal of 6.1 is. So, there are small things that we can do. And so, my really, where I'm coming to you all from is, I need your help, because I've realized, and I've been around for way too many years that I care to remember. I hate to even say I've probably been a lawyer more years than some people have been alive. But the fact is that whatever energy for pro bono is really going to come from young lawyers, new lawyers, because I've already seen, in talking with folks at law school, with the law school clinical director, law school pro bono director, meeting with law students, is that there is a commitment from the new lawyer, the new pro bono that has been missing from the lawyers of my generation and frankly the generation that came behind me. So in terms of what the state bar is offering and how, really to engage more lawyers in pro bono. As I said before, surveys have indicated that, time, training, and resources are 3 of the main reasons why attorneys aren't doing pro bono. I can't do anything about time. I wish I could give everybody at least 2 or 3 more hours in a day. That'd be great. Can't do it. But one thing I can do is help with the training. And also I can help coordinate resources. In terms of the training, if you aren't aware, and I'll advertise this right now, the Virginia State Bar is going to undertake a fairly aggressive campaign to provide more training for lawyers, starting on October 21st at 2 o'clock with a webinar. It's going to be submitted for CLE. CLE approval is pending. But the webinar is, what is pro bono? I'm sorry, it's, remember the name of it. It is, basically, what is pro bono and how can I get engaged? What things that I can, it's providing a basic introduction to pro bono. You can register, go to the VSB website. It's on the front, the news page, as well as on the Access to Legal Services page. You can click the link there. It'll take you to go to webinar page. Click there, put in your information. It's just going to be a kind of nuts and bolts. What is pro bono? What it means? How you can get involved in it? Whether you're working at a big firm or whether you're a solo practitioner. Things that you can do. That's, as I said, that's an hour of free CLE credit right there. Additionally, this will be the start of really, as I said, kind of an ongoing series of webinars and educational opportunities around pro bono. The thought process is this, is in exchange for getting attorneys involved in pro bono and giving them this training, you know, what we're asking is that you certify, that you'll do a commensurate amount of hours of pro bono. So if, let's say, over the course of the next year, we do 6 webinars that offer 6 hours of CLE credit, we're just asking that you do 6 hours of pro bono work. And again, it could be a variety of types of work. More, I think, long-term and more significantly, we are looking at forming what is, at least right now, being deemed the Pro Bono Training Consortium. And we're going to network with the big firms, with the legal aid offices, with the law schools, to develop a curriculum for attorneys to do pro bono, with hopefully each institution providing training on a certain subject matter. So let's say Hunter Williams, maybe they'll do a family law or seminar. McGuire Woods maybe on property law, landlord-tenant. You know, the state bar, maybe we do something in terms of the ethics and covering that. Over the course of the year, providing all 12 hours of CLE credit for free. Doesn't cost 1 cent. But again, the commitment would be that you do a commensurate amount of hours of pro bono service. As I said before, if every lawyer in Virginia does just 2 hours of pro bono a month, we are so close to that aspirational goal that, you know, it will make a difference. But 36 hours, I mean 36,000 hours, we can do better. And, you know, I know that, as I said, that's not capturing the ad hoc pro bono types of situations, which I think is another goal that the Access to Legal Services Committee will be undertaking, is to really see what we can do to get a better sense of what's going on out there and to provide that type of support. But the consortium, again, the law schools would basically help by providing law students to do legal research for the attorneys pro bono. Again, knocking that out as a possible issue in terms of the lawyers not being able to do pro bono. So there are a number of, I guess, ideas, initiatives that are under serious consideration, starting with the webinars and the free training, but going beyond that. I'm pleased to report, if you don't know, that the Virginia Supreme Court has, you know, basically committed to having an Access to Justice Commission here in the state, making us the 33rd or 34th state in the country with an Access to Justice Commission that is going to be exploring broad issues in access to legal services and access to justice issues, which is not only pro bono, but also issues that involve legal aid offices, that involves indigent defense, and that involves pro se litigants. So hopefully, you know, all of this energy that I think is there, the commission will really be able to channel it and put it to good use. But again, I'm excited about being in the commission, and certainly excited about having the opportunity and pleasure to speak to you all today. And in terms of my comments, that's pretty much it. You know, I don't know if you all have any questions or comments or ideas or whatever, but I'm here to hear from you all. For me, my turn here. Yes, sir.
I have a question for those people who work in firms where pro bono work, well...
I'm sorry, I can't...
I'm sorry. For those people who work at firms where there is maybe a general, I guess, consensus that pro bono work is good, but when it comes down to brass tacks and the amount of work that they're given and that they're expected to do, simply don't have time, what advice would you give to those younger attorneys on how to either convince their bosses or to change the culture in general to allow them more time to do pro bono work?
It's a really good question, and one of the things that you know, is happening in a number of jurisdictions, and in fact I know that some of the firms here basically allow pro bono work to count towards the billable hours. So you know, some firms are a bit reluctant to engage in that, and I think that's where, you know, again, the state bar and where, you know, especially the Access to Justice Commission can play a big role in terms of laying the groundwork for making, I guess, the firm leaders more receptive to having their attorneys do pro bono, and realizing that, again, we're talking 2 hours a month. It's not a huge amount of time. And so working with the bar leaders, working with the heads of these law firms, and just saying, look, what can we do to help you create an environment where pro bono is welcome? Those are the conversations that I really want to have. I know that Hunton and Firewoods and several other the larger firms here and around the state in Northern Virginia are doing wonderful work. Also, frankly, the local bar associations are, again, another avenue where you have input from the heads, or at least a representation from a number of folks in the big firms, and getting them to endorse pro bono, I think, is really a big step. And finally, the bench. There's got to be leadership from the bench. I've heard in a number of jurisdictions that the judges are, again, reluctant to say, pro bono is a good thing. I know that they can't, take political positions, but that's not asking them to take a political position. This is what the rule is. It says 10%. See, I support the rule. And I think that type of minimal endorsement or commitment or statement will go a long way to really, driving more lawyers to at least seek out pro bono opportunities. Any other comments, questions? Yes, ma'am. I have got probably not enough cards. Well, maybe I do have enough cards. I certainly have enough cards for you. If you want one, I will gladly share that with you. And would love to, if you have any questions or thoughts or comments or suggestions. Right now, I am kind of an empty board or slate, so I'm taking in ideas and, talking with people about them and hopefully making good things happen in that sense. But I'm hoping to do over the next several months and years, whatever. Yes, ma'am. Right, and that's a really good point, because I think that really one of the issues with what's happening right now in Virginia, there's a lot of good work being done. And if I came across as being negative about the situation in Virginia, that certainly was not my intent. As I said, a lot of information isn't being captured, and there is frankly, a lack of communication in terms of what opportunities are out there. And so part of my function, I see, is really providing a better sense of information and helping to create more coordination of opportunities and what's being done, so that attorneys in the field know what's happening. I'll add one other thing. One of the issues really, and again, are really challenges in terms of pro bono in Virginia, is that it is very Richmond and Northern Virginia centric. The big firms here honestly have got their act together. There's not a whole lot that I can do to really enhance what they're doing. They can enhance what I'm doing, and that's why I'm going out and trying to talk with them and saying, look, tell me how I can make what you're doing happen in, Southwest Virginia and Southside Virginia and, the Eastern Shore, where pro bono is significantly lacking. And it's not just a major metropolitan area thing, because frankly, the best performing area of the state is the Roanoke Valley. Blue Ridge Legal Services definitely have their act together. They have got an outstanding pro bono network there. And the Harrisonburg Rockingham Bar Association, 20% of their members are doing pro bono. I mean, that's outstanding. That is admirable. I want to know, whatever they're doing, how that formula or energy or magic or whatever it is that they've got, I can take that or frankly help a bar association on the Eastern Shore or again Southside or Southwest replicate that. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, and absolutely, I could not agree more. Is that I am so impressed with what they're doing and how they've engaged the lawyers in their bar, in their local bars, to be part of their organization. And I guess that's the last point that I'll make in terms of, because I know that legal aid lawyers, public defenders, folks who are doing public interest law say, well, this is what I do. How much more are you going to ask of me? And I guess my response is this: I'm not necessarily asking that you all take another case. You can mentor a lawyer who's doing pro bono, and that is pro bono in and of itself. You've got a talent and a gift, so to speak. That's something that you can share by mentoring, by providing guidance, by teaching at any of these seminars or CLEs, and providing the information and the experience that you have, so that lawyers who may not be engaged or typically working in that area of the law can be confident in their representation of folks who just don't have the resources to retain counsel. So, are there any other comments, questions, suggestions? I do have cards, and I'm happy to. I'll stay around a little bit. So, if you want to catch me, during a break, I'm more than happy to chat. Thank you very much.